Hi, okay. This is take two. I just did it a second ago, and actually I put the phone back a little bit, and this just feels much more comfortable. Sometimes you need a take two, right? So it's Spill the Tea, take two, and thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited because we are being joined by my friend and colleague and old, like student mate. What do you call that? We were students together at the Juilliard School. Isabel Leonard is here, Mezzo-soprano Isabel Leonard. So she just went live, so it should be splitting the screen any minute. Hi!
Hi. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Very good. So I'm going to try to balance my phone.
Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
I feel like the last time we bumped into each other was outside, right? Like with our kids or something.
Well, yeah, no, we always see each other outside.
I know.
I think that's where
except for now.
I know. Except for right now, we're meeting virtually.
I know.
So this is
you doing okay?
And it's like all about having sort of a place to talk about everything music and how this is sort of like affecting the music industry, like specifically. And what I found really interesting in my talk with Jonathan yesterday was how you feel like you see things being cut and the arts being cut, and yet we need to create and do the arts in order to breathe and to live. So that's what was striking to me yesterday, and I really am eager to hear how you're feeling and like what your takeaways are, just day to day, because I know it changes.
Sure. I mean, I think that right now there are a ton of amazing initiatives that are, starting on. So many artists, singers, and instrumentalists, of course, and everybody is starting. They're starting platforms, to inspire donations to different relief funds. They're trying to create their own relief funds to draw attention to the crisis that the arts world is in because of what's going on.
Have you seen some that have really stuck out to you? Some of those platforms?
Well, I think all of them have, Ryan McKinney has started one. He has a hashtag going, keep the music going. And there's the Tree, what is it called? Tree Arts Life. I can look for all the links, and I can also send them to you and repost them. But on a YouTube channel. More than anything, it's just to keep spirits up, kind of keep ourselves creatively producing something, and to kind of, again, inspire audience members to even donate $1 to the funds that are out there. All of the funds essentially go back to the artists. There's some funds that are being created that are more geared towards like new music right now. I just received an email about that.
Like composers and like the creation of new music,
right? Like composers or pieces, right? Things that have been canceled in that regard. So there's a lot of really new stuff going on.
Yeah, well, that's so interesting too. It's like these other ways. So many things have been canceled, and I did want to ask you that. Have you personally had engagements canceled?
All of them, yeah.
Or has that sort of been? Oh wow, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's not okay. It's not okay for any of us. That's the thing. Like everything has been canceled, and all of the companies that I've worked for, or that I would be working for, none of them can compensate the artists. The ones that can are in fortunate positions that they've probably budgeted ahead of time for those particular productions. I think we forget sometimes that really big companies might have running costs that are non-negotiable, that they don't necessarily. I don't run a business, so I don't know the ins and out of it, but I know that there are some smaller companies that are able to budget production per production. And so they have the money and the funding ready to not only pay the company itself, the staff, the employees of the house, but their artists, the orchestra, the chorus, the everything. So when they cancel, some of those companies are able to pay the artist because they had already
had it set aside.
The money.
It was like a different allocation of funds.
Right. Whereas there are other companies that don't have that, and it's not the time to judge. It's just to say that that's what it is. And so a lot of those companies, you know, cannot pay.
And you never know what's been the history of companies and
of course
what's led them to where they are, like financially. And there's so much that happens. Yeah. And so you're right. It is. Yeah. That's why I was wondering for you, if it's been like a case by case, you know, per house, or if you've really just been hit like across.
No, it's basically been across St. Louis. So last week I was supposed to go to St. Louis. So the last thing I sang was at the Phil on Tuesday. It feels like ages ago, but it was, I guess, really only a week ago Tuesday. And that was the last concert. Wow. And I think the last concert that the Phil did as well. And so that was my last paycheck. I flew on Wednesday early.
Wow, where did you sing?
We did Scheherazade. We did Ravel's Scheherazade, which is so beautiful. So it was a great piece to go out on.
I saw the picture. It was gorgeous.
It was so fun.
It was gorgeous. And I saw the picture. I can't believe I forgot. But you know what was very weird? I felt connected. Isabel. I really did. Because that day I was going through you know, a bin, like, as I'm sure you may have done, like looking at music, like taking things out, you know, and I came across a Midsummer Night's Dream score when I covered you and you gave me your score. You had an extra score.
That's nuts.
I know. And in the same box I have a Scheherazade because I've never learned it and I wanted to learn it. And then I saw your picture of you singing Scheherazade. It's all we're supposed to be talking. So I want to hear what you're saying. But so you guys, that is a great concert to keep, to like have as your last one, at least in your most recent memory. Absolutely. I mean, I think it's all been interesting. You know, I was supposed to go to St. Louis. I flew out there the next day. And then within about 48 hours, they decided to cancel everything. So instead of performing on Friday night, I flew back on Friday to New York, and to kind of like what felt like a very sort of stressful time, or at least in my house, like we live with my mom. And so she was trying to put together some things. So I came home to try and, you know, just start organizing the house and see what it is that we really needed if we were going to stay in for at least 2 weeks and what that meant. And it's not, it's difficult, I think, for everybody. Just trying to think about. And so have you been staying
trying to plan ahead?
Are you with your, and are you with your son as well right now?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Awesome.
He's always with me. So, one second.
Maybe he's here right now. Yes, we have.
He is. He's looking for something. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, it's definitely like mom and children connect time.
Yeah, for sure. And school time.
Yes. How old is, like, because you just have to worry about school.
Yeah, so he's 9, and his school has now kind of gone online, which has been tricky. They're using Microsoft Office as their platform for all the lessons, which, you know, it's funny. I feel like I could put that on my resume now that I know how to use Microsoft Office to some degree, but it is not.
You can, like, special skills.
People, it's crazy, right? People talk about that being like a learning curve. It's not a curve. It's like a line. It's like a steep line that is so not intuitive.
It's a mountain.
It's like not intuitive at all.
It's a cliff.
And
you like had to scale it.
Yeah.
Well, good job, Mom.
It's totally. It's so funny. It's really funny.
But you know,
so
what
he'll get it.
True about artists too, though, is like I've been actually. So I was struck today by like you're like, sure, let's talk about this. No problem. I can be ready. And same thing with everybody. And it's sort of like this school thing too. Artists are so used to like, oh, okay, you want it like that. Oh, okay, you want to do it like this. You know, we're so used to like adapting and sort of making our world be collaborative, I guess, you know, that. So I feel like we are kind of we have a little leg up in some ways, like being home with our kids with that, you
Well,
know.
I mean, I think we're also just used to different environments, you know. It's like you could ask me like, how do you turn on any dishwasher, or washing machine all over the world, and I could eventually figure it out because that's what we do.
Yes,
You know, amongst other things. But I gotta tell
totally.
you, Microsoft Office was definitely not intuitive. So that was fun. But yeah, I think I don't know really what's coming ahead of us. I mean, not to be a downer, I'm not entirely sure that this is going to stop anytime soon. I do feel like this is going to
Yeah.
continue potentially through the rest of the year. And so I am mentally trying to prepare myself for the prospect of that. But at the same time, I am going to continue learning what I have to learn technically for this summer and coming up in the fall, and then get a head start on everything else that's coming up beyond that, and use the time as I can. Um,
That's
and just,
great.
you know, fingers crossed.
Yeah, and I think you touch on a really good point, which is just like we don't know how long it's going to last. We don't know um, what the next step is. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
the hard thing. And so, like, have you had any feelings about like what this means for music in general and music making? Like, do you like have a sense of that or like a feeling? Or are you feeling? I mean, I talk to other people too, and
Yeah.
they're not even really ready to go there.
I mean,
And
I
other
think that,
people are very.
yeah.
I think it's
I
across the
mean, I think
board.
you
Like,
have
there's just a
to,
lot of feelings.
yeah, no, and I think that you have to I think you have to go there in your mind. I think, you know, like the best chess players, you have to go and find all the paths that you can think of. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to make your move quite yet. You can take an hour to make the move, but it would be wise, I think, to think ahead at all of the potential paths that lay in front of you. And I think everybody should do that. I think companies
That's
should do that,
awesome,
you
Isabel. I
know.
love that.
I mean, I
That's
think that it's,
fantastic.
yeah. Um,
I think that's really great. And like, and you also though really work with a spirit of kindness. And so I know that you mean that, you know, thinking about those moves in that spirit, and that's so awesome.
yeah, and it's tricky, you know. I think I'm in a funny position, I feel, and maybe this is just me because I know I've been so very fortunate, you know, over the last 15, 17 years, working and really I've had very few glitches in my own personal path, right? And I mean, at least I've had no professional glitches, right? Personally, there've been plenty of them. But so I would, you know, I received an email today that was asking for like some financial help, and I basically had to say, like, at this present moment in time, I actually cannot donate any of my own personal funds because I'm supporting my child and I'm supporting some things with my mother. She's dealing with, you know, we live with her right now. We're trying to mitigate costs. Like, we don't have an apartment, so, you know, everybody's doing what they can, and she's 78, so I cannot also risk her getting sick, and I can't risk getting sick
No.
myself and leave my mother and my son vulnerable without my help, or God forbid, you know, without anything worse than that, right? So, but it leaves me feeling like crap actually, because
Oh.
I can't help, right? Because if this were 6 months ago or something like that, and this was not, but this actual crisis wasn't going on, it were something else, then I
Yeah.
would absolutely share, right? Because I have in the past. And so it's a really like crappy feeling to not be able to do that.
I'm
Um,
sorry. Yeah.
but no, but that being said, it's okay. We are all still in unbelievably fortunate and privileged positions. I still have a roof over my head. You know, I have food in our pantry. Like, we are okay.
Yeah.
And so I think the next thing is as well, for musicians as well globally, is like, what are we going to do about the millions and millions and millions of people who do not have these basic human rights of a roof and some food and some water, as basic as that could be, right? And it does sort of slap you in the face, and it brings you
Yes.
down a couple notches when you even when you can actually see that line versus how most of us live when we don't really see that line because we're quite far from it, and in our privilege and in our just are being
Day to
fortunate.
day, we're in our
Yeah.
we're in our own worlds.
Yeah. And I think now that we all
We surround ourselves with people that are in a similar economic bracket. It's just how it is.
Exactly. And I think now that we can all kind of see the line, even if some of us aren't quite like right on it or even past it, the fact that we can all see this line now has been like a shake, I think.
And
and so
yeah, you're right, that shake. And I think also like that feeling that we all understand this feeling of being nervous, and that's that feeling of humanity is, and that we all are kind of seeing. I think that's like another part of that line that you're talking about.
Yeah.
That we're seeing that humanity across
the
board. And and it's interesting how it's hitting artists and how it's hitting every single person in a different way, but at the bottom we're all humans.
Absolutely. I mean, and they're beyond the artists, they're children, as you know, right, in New York, who rely on their public schools for food. And
yes,
I mean, we're talking about basic human needs. And so, even today we were sitting down at the table and having a little bit of food, and and I was saying to Teo, I was like, please don't waste that. And I would say this to him anyway.
Yeah.
But the words coming out of my mouth meant so much more even now than they did before, right? Like, and on top of that, I feel somewhat shameful for them meaning more now to me than they did before. So I'm also kind of trying to accept my own upset about my own thoughts and myself, or perhaps throughout this process, and then move on into, okay, what are the solutions moving forward, right? And so I'll say to him, please don't.
I think that's really beautiful, Isabel, like, because I think like that introspection and that looking at oneself is what we're supposed to do. Like that is part of the question. Like, I thank you for saying that, because that's really right. And I mean, I completely agree with that. And like looking at us and how we are, like even as a society, and how we are inside, like it's really beautiful. I'm so sorry, I have to keep it to 19 minutes.
Oh, okay.
I really want people to watch. So I'm gonna, so would you want to share any rec of anything that you're watching, reading, or listening to?
So my son and I love listening to 1950s rock and roll. It's it's super uplifting. We love to dance around the house. We clean to it. We do everything to it, and he loves it. And so, and I love it. It's just like 1950s rock.
Like a playlist or something on Pandora. Got you.
Exactly.
I didn't know
exactly.
If I talked over you and like mixed them. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we have a lot of fun with that. And lots of board games and learning new card games that you've never learned before. Things that you thought were too hard. Like, you got the time to learn it now.
Like, totally. That's so great. Oh, and wait, before we go, and we're going to skip the 19. I do want you to just say a little bit more about your YouTube channel, because it's really cool.
Thank you.
Went over there. Yeah, it's really cool. And I also, I've been liking your stories that sort of accompany it a little bit. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. I've just started, like so many of us, right? We've started to create little channels or create videos of music to keep on creating. And I created a YouTube channel, and I think I'm hoping it'll serve more than one purpose ultimately, which is I'd ultimately like to get off most of social platforms and keep it in one streamlined place, because I think ultimately we're oversaturated, and we all have to really start thinking about streamlining, and part of this crisis is about streamlining. So that's the ultimate goal. But for now, the goal is to create as much content and also just general happiness, so people can go, and if they can donate $1 to any of those artistic funds that I've posted in the in the YouTube posts, all of that goes to like the AGMA Artist Relief Fund. There are several other that are on that list, and I'm going to keep on adding more I find out more.
Good work.
So that's all that it is, and go over there and subscribe. And I think the more subscribers one can have, like again, Ryan McKinney has his channel up to, then you can start doing things like live on the YouTube. And then you can start generating more and more. And I think the hope is to really reach an audience that is well far beyond the audience that would already watch the things that we do.
Totally. Oh, I see. Yes. So kind of reaching all new people that wouldn't even know opera necessarily, or in all walks
Yeah,
of life. Wow, that's really cool.
exactly. Yeah,
And
yeah.
what was I going to say too? But I saw you also on some of your stories. You were like talking to people overseas and things.
Yes, yes.
So
So
is there
I'm
like an
trying to
element of
do,
that?
yeah, so I'm trying to do almost every day. I can't quite do every day, but almost every day around 5:30, 6 o'clock, like Eastern time, just getting on Instagram and talking, and people call in from all over. And I've spoken to people in like almost like so many places right now. And
Oh
it's
my
just
gosh,
been,
Isabel!
it's been,
Yes.
it's been so fun, and it's been a great distraction for me. And I feel like it's nice for them. Um, and
And
it's
so
just
you're liking
reminding us.
that, like it's
So
giving you like
yeah,
joy and good hopefulness.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome. That is so great. Good for you.
Thanks.
Wow. That's so cool. Okay, great. Okay, so I'm gonna put all that in the post as well.
Okay.
And I'll put a link to your channel. So everybody do that and
Okay.
look for her at 5:30 or 6. Thank you so much for coming on, Isabel. It's
You're welcome.
so great to run into you whenever it
It's so
happens.
nice. It's so
And
nice to see your face.
oh my gosh, I know. And I do hope we can just like do it again because there's always more to say.
I know. There's a lot. We got the time to chat.
Yeah. Thanks so much. You're the best.
Sending you so much love.
You too. Okay, take
Okay.
care. And I just
All right.
stay tuned. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.